Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, so today we're diving into something that is, well, at the heart of everything, our entire economy, but almost nobody really understands how it works. We're talking about how money is actually created. It's a story with a huge paradox right in the middle of it, and it affects every single one of us. So yeah, let's get into it.
So let me just start by asking you this. Imagine you owe someone money. Could you just create your own money to pay them back? I mean, it sounds completely nuts, right? Something out of a fantasy novel.
Well, get this. It's not just a hypothetical. Back in 2018, a woman in Italy who was facing a debt collection decided to do just that. She literally created her own scriptural euros with an accounting entry and said, "There, that's paid." The court of Treviso, as you can probably guess, was not impressed. They shot down her claim and even punished her for it. So case closed, right? Nope, not even close.
Because that one weird little court case, it actually rips the curtain back on one of the biggest secrets in all of modern banking. And what it shows us is a paradox that is absolutely fascinating and, frankly, pretty challenging. Here it is. This is the core of it all. What if that seemingly crazy thing she did, creating digital money from nothing to complete a transaction, is almost exactly what commercial banks do every single time they give someone a loan? I mean, just let that sink in for a second. A regular citizen creates digital money to settle a debt, and boom, it's illegal. A bank does something incredibly similar to create a loan, and it's just another Tuesday. It's one action, but two completely different outcomes. How is that even possible? And that, my friends, is the money creation paradox. It's a massive double standard that's literally woven into the fabric of our legal and financial systems. So let's pull this thing apart and see how it really works. Okay, so to really get this, you first have to realize that not all money is created equal. In our modern economies, there are actually two very different types of money, and one of them is way more important than the other.
First, you've got the stuff we all think of as money. Legal tender. We're talking about the actual cash in your wallet, the banknotes and coins made by a central bank. And it has this one special superpower. By law, it is the only thing that can officially and finally wipe a debt clean.
But then there's the other kind, scriptural money. This stuff isn't cash. It's just numbers on a screen, entries in a bank's computer system. And here is the part that might just blow your mind. Private, commercial banks create this money ex nihilo, literally from nothing, every single time they grant a loan. They are not lending you someone else's savings. They are creating brand new money just for you.
So how big of a deal is this bank-created money? Well, just look at this number. Over 90%. More than 90% of all the money circulating in our economy is this digital scriptural money. The physical cash we carry around, it's just a tiny sliver of the pie. The overwhelming majority is just created by private banks.
And you better believe creating money is profitable. That profit has a fancy name, seigniorage. For centuries, this was a special perk, a profit source that belonged only to the king, the sovereign, the state. It was public revenue.
And this right here is where the game totally changed. Traditionally, the state profited from issuing cash. Now, it's private banks that profit from the interest they charge on the money they just conjured up out of thin air. A public revenue stream has effectively become a private one.
So how is this double standard actually enforced? Well, it's built right into our legal system, which brings us right back to those court cases.
And yet, the courts have been very consistent on this. The courts in Treviso and Bari both said, nope, regular citizens can't just create their own scriptural money. It's illegal. But check out this fascinating case from 2006. A citizen sued the Bank of Italy over who gets to keep the seigniorage profit. The highest court basically just threw up its hands and said, that's a political choice, not a legal issue for them to decide.
So the bottom line is, the law, in this case the Italian banking law, makes it absolutely crystal clear. The power to create this kind of money, the kind that actually runs our economy, is an exclusive privilege. It's granted only to authorized banks. For everybody else, it's forbidden. Which brings us to the fundamental question that legal scholars have been asking. If the state is going to outsource a core government power, creating money, to one group of private companies for profit, what's the logical reason for them punishing another private citizen who tries to do the very same thing? And look, this isn't just an Italian thing. This is a global conversation. And it raises the obvious question. Can this system be fixed? Can we actually solve the paradox at the heart of our money? Plenty of ideas have been thrown around, for sure. Switzerland actually held a vote on giving the central bank a total monopoly on creating money. The proposal didn't pass, but they were talking about it. And history gives us some warnings, like the chaotic Wildcat Banks era in the 19th century United States. Nowadays, a lot of this conversation is about things like central bank digital currencies.
But the analysis we're digging into today proposes a particularly elegant solution, a framework that it calls quantitative balancing.
And here's how it works, in 3 simple steps. 1. Banks have to precisely measure all the new scriptural money they create. 2. For that amount, they have to record a new liability, basically a debt, to the government. And 3. That simple accounting move transforms the hidden private profit of seigniorage into transparent public revenue.
The beauty of this is that the core problem we started with, that whole double standard, it just vanishes.
Because under this new system, the rule is the same for everyone. It doesn't matter if you're a huge bank or a regular citizen. If you create scriptural money, you just have to record that liability to the state. The act itself is no longer illegal. It's just based on acknowledging that the profit from creating a public good belongs to the public. And what's really fascinating is how this one change could resolve some deep constitutional problems. Popular sovereignty is fulfilled because the value of money basically returns to the people. The principle of equality is met because the rules are the same for everyone. The whole system just becomes more fair and consistent.
Which leaves us with one final, powerful question to chew on. If we accept that money is a public good, a social tool that allows our entire society to function, then who should be the main beneficiary when it's created? Should it be private institutions working for a profit, or should it be the public itself? That is the real choice at the very heart of the money creation paradox.